Yes, record to the cloud.
Oh, okay. I'll stop and record to the, well, I'll record to my computer and I'll send it.
Great. The title of our presentation today is Progressive Education in the Keweenaw. Our presenter is Susan Nielsen. She's the CAPE Executive Director, CAPE, C-A-P-E, Community Alliance for Progressive Education. Susan has a Bachelor of Science in Organization Psychology from the University of Michigan and completed her master's degree in Applied Behavioral Science from Johns Hopkins University. For 15 years, she owned and operated a successful consulting firm specializing in leadership development, positive people systems, and career management programs. Her love of learning and education led her to transition from consulting to higher education when she accepted a leadership position at the Jackson Community College. In that role, she was asked by the college president to start up and grow a new department for corporate and continuing education. Upon moving to the Upper Peninsula, she has spent the past decade working to transform the educational experiences of youth through the organization named CAPE. Susan also teaches at Michigan Tech's Pavlis Honors College. This presentation will be followed by Q&A. You can put questions into the chat, and Susan will either answer them during the session or at the end. We'll go back to all those questions in the chat, and she can respond to those. If anyone is with the media here, we ask that you ask a person before quoting them in any article that is going to get published. And this recording will be available on the Keweenaw Unitarian Universalist Fellowship website, keweenawuu.org, this week. Okay, so Susan, take it away. Thanks so much for being here today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thumbs up if you can hear me. Excellent. So who will be sharing the slide deck?
Oh, can you not do that?
I do not have a share option.
Yeah, you do. You should. You're a co-host.
Okay, well, let's see. I will.
If your screen is at full size rather than reduced, the commands are missing. So click on the upper right on view and reduce exit full screen.
I am not. I'm on reduce. So let's see.
Joan, do you have it? Do you have the slideshow?
Yeah, I should, because she did share with me. And
yeah, I'm not seeing it. Well, one of the things that we can get you started talking about is, while we figure this out, what I would like you to do in order to kind of explain to you what progressive education is all about. If you have access to a piece of paper or a pencil or something, what I want you to do is think back to your own education, whether that's middle school, high school, college, whatever it is, however far you went. Think back to what was good about it and what wasn't so good about it, and what kind of changes that you would have made. Like if you could have changed the way you went through high school or changed the way you went through college, what changes would you have made? So write down a few thoughts while we are figuring out.
Okay, I'm going to try to share it. There we go. Oops, not there.
Yep, I can see it, Joan. So if you just click slideshow.
Yeah. Yeah, slideshow. All right. So I think,
unfortunately, I'm just going to have to tell you to keep.
Yeah, right. Okay. And I think I just hit return to advance it.
Perfect.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, we're just getting people thinking here a little bit.
Check.
While you all are writing some notes down, I definitely want to make this an informal experience. I think that that aligns with what progressive education is all about and the style of the kind of experiences that we provide through CAPE. So while you're thinking and writing, if you want to unmute and talk about some of the changes that you would have made in your own education experience, like what would have made it better, I invite you to unmute if that's okay, in terms of how you usually run the forum, and offer some thoughts. I would absolutely love to hear your ideas.
And Susan, there's no like, it has to be run a certain way.
Okay, good, good.
How you like.
Because I'm an informal kind of person.
Good. That'd be great.
Anybody want to jump on and say, gosh, what I really loved about high school or college, or what I really hated was, or I wish we could have.
What I really loved was when I had creative opportunities, and what I really hated was when there was so much bullying going on, and so much of that stuff in all my schools, and so much dogmatism.
Great, thank you, Miriam.
Welcome.
I think Ellen was gonna pop on.
Yeah, I went to junior high school in Minnesota, and that system was set up with modular scheduling and open campus. And if you were a decent student, you could earn privileges for not going to a study hall and doing other kinds of things. In the midst of that, my family moved to Florida, where it was 6 periods a day, study hall if you weren't in class. The place was just about locked, and it felt really tiny.
Brilliant, great. Anybody else want to pop on, like something that you remember that was either really great or not so great?
Can you hear me?
I can. Is that Jane?
Yeah.
No.
No, this is Adrian. I grew up in a Catholic school system, and I do remember in grade school. Now the classes had perhaps 60 students per class, under the direction of one nun, and I do remember that the classes were divided by the rows of chairs, the desks, and you had the very smart students in one section, then you had mediocre students, and then you had the poor dumb students, because people didn't realize there were learning disabilities back then. And when these poor students stood up to read and stumbled, all the other kids would snicker. And I just remember that being horrific. And not at the time, but now I think how cruel that was. And what did that do to those students that were in the two dumb rows? And I'm calling them dumb because that's how we perceived them. So that's what I remember.
Thank you for that. That's a very powerful story.
I'll just echo what everybody else is saying. I felt my school experience was too interior. You know, we were in rows, we couldn't talk. All the work had to be inside your head. And whenever that changed, I felt so much more invigorated and wanting to learn. And I'm the kind of person that does well with a traditional classroom, you know, but I felt like group work, being able to respond in a spontaneous manner to what was being taught was the best way to learn.
That's also lovely.
I have a positive. This was at college level. The field trips were the most educational of college. We went out and we actually saw what we were reading.
That's amazing. So glad you had that experience.
I went
Yeah.
to the University of Michigan and I absolutely loved it. I loved all the diversity. I loved all the presenters they brought in from across the country. It just was the most stimulating education. So high school was just, whatever, you got through it, but college was amazing. It really opened my world.
Can you hear me?
Mhm.
Hi, yeah, can hear you.
You can hear me?
Yes,
can hear
Alan.
Okay. In the 11th grade, our teacher spent one couple of months reading a book to us. It was the Spanish Armada. And it's a different way of learning because all we had to do was listen. But it sparked my interest in history. So I consider that a real positive.
That's amazing. And there's a lot of research that shows all through our lives we enjoy and get very positive experiences and feelings about being read to. I have a 15-year-old son and I still read aloud to him. And he loves it. Yeah, there's something very nurturing about that and loving about that. So that's awesome. Anybody else have something they want to share?
I just say a few words. I grew up in San Diego, California, and the main cultural influences were high-tech industries, aircraft, and also military. And so I learned a lot informally at home and from friends. And the things we learned were electronics related. The junior high school that I went to was racially mixed, and it was an uncomfortable fit. I was very glad to move away from that. I will not elaborate on that. But then we had pretty good science courses in high school, and so I ended up majoring at college in a subject that most people find quite difficult, which is physics, but it turned out to be a very good fit for me. And so anyway, that kind of launched a career. So I'm
That's
trying
great. Well, and I think just from all of these stories, you can tell how deeply impacted every individual is in our education system, which to me sort of makes a compelling reason to create education that is healthy and that is holistic. And that is why when I, through the course of my professional development, came across progressive education and started doing all the research, I was like, well, why are we not all doing this? Joan, if you wanted to pop through the next couple slides, they know me already. The next one. So here's a quick definition of progressive education. I like all of the positive aspects that you all pointed out, which was like being read to, that's non-traditional. Field trips, that's non-traditional. Diversity, when it's managed well, right? That's non-traditional. So, progressive education, and you can imagine that in this community, the word progressive gets some people triggered. So it's always really important to define what the heck that is. But it's really basically experiential learning. And when I was at Jackson Community College and started working with the college students, I would hear, anecdotally like, oh, this class is so boring because all we, teacher ever does is lecture. And so I was like, why can't we do this better? And when coming from the corporate world, we did adult education really well, very experiential. And so I was like, why wouldn't we be just doing this for everybody? And so then there was the other situation. It sounds like many of you tapped on understanding how this thing that you want me to learn applies to my life and to the real world. There's got to be some application or some sense of what you're telling me and how it connects to my life experience. And I just did that with you by asking you to reflect on your own experience. So that was where we're going to start with that as a building block. And also it helped us actually empathize and build community by hearing each other's stories. Some stories were positive, some stories were not super positive. So part of, to me, progressive education, and Joan, if you want to flip to the next slide, is that it really does approach the student in a holistic way. I want to talk to you as a human being and talk about you holistically, your mind, your body, your spirit, your emotions, your learning, like all of it, your goals, your lifestyle, just everything. So there are some of the key principles of all progressive education. The next slide is going to be a bunch of examples of programs that you probably have heard about before. The most famous one is Montessori. Wow. And I am actually actively working with local schools to get a Montessori school going in like the K-5 age range.
No biting, no biting,
oh.
No biting.
And so I don't know, does anybody have any experience with any of these programs?
Well, Susan, I'm going to suggest that you add the Lake Superior Stewardship Initiative to this list.
Excellent, I will do that.
Exactly. All those characteristics that you just had listed on the previous slide, that is exactly what the Lake Superior Stewardship does. It's
beautiful. I will absolutely do that. And one of the reasons why I have enjoyed teaching for the Honors College is that they let me help design curriculum, and they let me bring in a lot of messages around looking at a college student holistically. So that's awesome. So if you want to
I'm familiar with the Waldorf system.
Yeah, and how did you interact with it? Did you know somebody who went to a school that was?
Well, we moved to a location where there was a Waldorf school, and my son looked at it and decided he didn't want to go there, so he didn't take advantage of it. But I got to know some of the people, and I took part in some of the eurythmic classes and got to know the curriculum a little bit.
Susan.
Yes.
Chuck Young here. When we have some time, this isn't quite the time for it, but I have a lot, I did a lot with hands-on education and a lot with science education, because I was in the Peace Corps in the Philippines, and I built a lot of scientific teaching equipment. And furthermore, I've been active here, including at the Makerspace, the Cape Makerspace. But yeah, this is not the time to go into it, but because I'd like to tell you my interests, but I don't want to distract from the other discussions that are going on. We'll get together sometime.
Perfect. Love that. And I think one of the things that I've seen progressive programs do is include multiple generations in a classroom. And I think that a lot of our traditional education model is so entrenched in our collective American psyche culturally. I remember when I was, I started the Discovery Center through Calumet Public Schools. It was kind of like a mini community college for homeschool kids, where they could come into the center and take art and build and computers and just all kinds of fun activities. And it was our homeschool students begged me to rent a bus so they could have a bus ride. Oh. And so there are cultural things deeply embedded in our collective expectations about what education is and looks like, that are problematic in the sense that many of these progressive programs, they look very different. And so people are a little nervous about them. So it takes a lot of conversation and a lot of identifying the positives. Of course, if you are a parent that appreciates progressive education, or anybody, you're ready to go, right? You can see the value of it. So if you want to go to the next slide, Joan. So with that kind of background about progressive education, you can imagine then whenever you come to a CAPE event, whether it's in our makerspace or whether it's a program that we might invite you to join later when we talk about life design, you're going to get a very experiential sense of community, a lot of relationship building, because we also know that learning doesn't happen unless there's psychological safety. That's kind of a new buzzword. We've always known it, but there's a lot of really great research around psychological safety right now. In fact, there was a big long-term research project at Google. Google wanted to explore their high-performing teams and wanted to know what made those teams high-performing. And clear and far away, the leading indicator was that that team, every member of that team felt psychologically safe in that environment. And so we spend a lot of time in progressive education and in our CAPE environments of building that sense of psychological safety so that everybody is free and feels supported to put in their contribution. So I hope at some point you all have a chance to cross paths with us and experience that. So you can see the two icons down there. We do have a really cool makerspace, and we are still in the process of growing it and developing it. So I would definitely welcome you to come in. I don't know if you recognize the building. This is the old middle school, high school. Okay, everybody recognizes that. This is where the kids sled.
Taught there many years.
Yeah. Okay. Did you go to school there, Linda?
I taught middle school there for
Okay.
most of my
Fabulous.
professional life. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you. So, I don't know if anybody knows what the update is on the building. So, the Lottie Construction Company and Finlandia had a joint ownership of this building. The Lotties own the top floor, which is where CAPE is located. We have our makerspace, our office, a science room, a classroom, and then another large room that we sublet other businesses to. And so now that the Finlandia has exited the first 3 floors, there is a very large grant now at the state level for community centers. So there are several agencies working together to get a grant to expand operations in this building to make it an actual community center. For those of you who don't know the building, there's a big gymnasium in there, and there's also a theater. So we're super excited about that opportunity, and I think we'll probably proceed with or without the grant. But the grant will just help us expedite that, right? So this is where we're located on the top floor. We also have partners. You can see on the sign there, Keweenaw Jiu-Jitsu is there, Superior School of Dance is there, and another alternative education organization called Kaleidoscope is up there. And then we outsource one of our big rooms to a yoga person. So there's lots of fun things to do up there on that 4th floor.
Okay, advance.
Yes, please. So I think that basically we've talked a lot about what our background is and what our goal is. And back in 2019, when I toured the 4th floor with Andy Lottie, the only thing that was up there was Finlandia Esports. So in a matter of about 1.5 years, we filled the 4th floor. So we thought, let's keep going, right? So we're excited to be part of this community grant. And we talk about our philosophy in our sessions. We call it voice and choice, that when I look at the traditional model and I talk with lots and lots of parents and students that are in lots of different educational, environments, one thing I think that can be missing from certain traditional models is that sense of students being able to have a voice and more choice in how and what they're learning. One of the things that if you were to walk into one of my Pavlis Honors College classes without me there and ask, how does Ms. Susan feel about grading? They'd all be like, so one of the things that I love about the Honors College is that they let me teach in a way that is ungraded. And I am actually launching an innovative high school program in the fall in conjunction with the Calumet School District that is going to turn the high school experience on its head. And I can fill you in a little bit more on that as we continue talking. So sure, go to the next slide, Joan. So this is just kind of an overview of some of the different programming that we offer. We do have a lot of partnerships in the community. I strongly believe in relationship building. So that was, you know, I'm here right now because of my relationship with Joan and her invitation to bring me to a Unitarian Universalist session. And then I met Miriam, and so on and so forth, right? So relationship building is kind of one of CAPE's core values. We're always reaching out. Because we also don't want to duplicate services, and we want to support our other nonprofit partners in the community to either send them people or help them attain their goals. So we're always talking and having clarifying conversations. So I highlighted two things on this page for you all to consider. One is that we have these volunteer opportunities always, right? We know that the young people that come to us, and even the older people that come to us, everybody needs a mentor, everybody needs someone to talk to, everybody needs to be exposed to different life experiences from other people and different perspectives. So we want to make it as great an opportunity for you to come in and volunteer as it is for the students or the other people that you're impacting. And then under community, I was certainly super excited when Miriam approached CAPE to help with the Art for Peace project. And I think if you go to the next slide, Joan, I think I created a bit of an overview. There we go. So take a minute to look through this document. And Miriam, if you see any mistakes, please shout them out. So this whole Art for Peace project, right now we're in the process of having the kids talk about peace, think about peace. What does it mean? What does it look like? And then draw some art that reflects their own sense of what peace means for them. So it's been super fun. Miriam and I and our other partners, our partners in crime, have had so much fun out there talking with kids. One of the things that in my experience also, no matter what age you're talking about, we constantly undervalue or underestimate what young people are willing to and can cognitively speak about. So I think that we need to challenge them more to talk about and think about these deeper subjects. And as long as we know it's behavior or developmentally appropriate, but everybody can talk about peace. I mean, we had first graders who were talking and thinking about peace and saying funny things like, it's not peaceful when I fight with my sister, you know, stuff like that. So it was a really great experience. And we're toying around with how to continue giving kids that opportunity and that space to talk about something that's so important.
Yeah.
So, yeah, go ahead, Miriam, please.
And I just want to say that this is in collaboration with Keweenaw Faiths United, and Bucky is also is really very involved in this.
Yes, perfect. Thank you.
And yeah.
Anything else you want to add to the Art for Peace, or does anybody have any questions about how this is going to roll out?
I've got some music, some songs that from the anti-war movement that I could share sometime.
Ooh, interesting. A playlist. That would be kind of fun.
Great.
All right.
I'll move on.
Oh,
Yeah.
And I just want to say that Reverend Sarah from Trinity Episcopal, I've been announcing this in the digest, is going to be holding an Art for Peace session. So anyone who hasn't done this, if you have grandkids or anyone who hasn't done this, on August 17th, she's going to be holding a session at Trinity Episcopal in the evening.
Soon, yeah.
Awesome, thank you.
Can't make it,
Here's-
but anyway, next time.
So here's a list of some of the local businesses that we partner with. And some great photographs of some of the fun things that we do. There's flag football and indoor soccer, and there's some folks building stuff in the makerspace. And then on the upper left, we were asked by the Keweenaw Community Foundation to bring together their youth advisory council and kind of get them restarted. So that was them doing some shoveling in downtown Hancock. So if you want to, and there's Keweenaw Face United right down there. Yep, you can go to the next one, Joan. There you go. We have a lot of partnerships with Michigan Tech, and I'm gonna guess maybe this, we could even add more to this list because Joan's stuff is not up in there. But you know, we last summer, or this summer, we did a week-long summer youth program class in middle school career exploration. And it was, you can imagine, full of field trips and guest speakers and lots of interactive and experiential activities. And the students got it. It was amazing. I mean, these were 12 and 13-year-olds, and they understood that we didn't want them to come up with an answer to what they want to be when they grow up, because that's an old, outmoded question. But we wanted them to understand the process. How do you determine what I want to be when I grow up, or what kind of work I want to do, and what's meaningful to me? So they understood it. They got it. Like, we don't need an answer. We're too young, but we understand how to get the answer when it's time. So that was very rewarding. And the summer before, in 2022, we did a week-long leadership class. So that was also very fun. And you can advance, Joan.
Do you want to talk about this slide?
Well, just there's some more community partners. I think it's just a reflection of all the work we've done in the last 3-4 years of getting out there and talking with people and finding out what the needs are in the community, what the needs are for students. Right now, we have a big transportation problem, right? I know that there are kids that would find great value in being at Cape Sessions after school on weekends in the evenings, but we have to figure out how to get to them and how to bring them into our space. One of the things that we did last September is we purchased the local driver's education business so that we could have vehicles and background check certified drivers available to go get these kids and bring them to us. And that's also why we partner with Gear Up and Upward Bound and Trio, because we know that that's where kids are. And if we can go in and present them with some powerful experiential learning, that is what our mission and goal is. So let's talk about some of the things that are coming up. I would say one of the things that Cape does well, and one of the reasons that Miriam has reached out to us to partner with us, is that we do great curriculum, right? So Miriam came with this idea about a peace camp, and I was like, oh yeah, like we can really do amazing things. And there was another piece of the whole peace camp, which is just helping students, again, at an appropriate age level, of what peace is and what's happening in the world, and how do we start with peace with ourselves, and then there's our family unit and our friend circle, and then our community, and then, right, just keep going out into the world. So we're super excited about this project, and certainly we would like to open up, maybe not right now, but maybe we can, Miriam and I and whoever else is working on that project, we can figure out a way to let people put their perspectives in. Like, what do you think would be important to teach a student about peace? I think that there's a lot of skills that our young people could develop that allows them to have those difficult conversations and being curious about people from other spiritual or religious backgrounds. I mean, I think Miriam brought in a big idea that this experience is gonna we're going to bring in people from different faiths and have a Q&A and a cool experience so that students are able to be curious, ask good questions, and dissuade some of the myths that they might have about different religions. So I'm excited about the fact that we have so much time to develop this.
That's the rest of your life.
Yeah, it's going to be very powerful, I think. And I hope that part of that process allows the students to figure out what's next for us. Because when you have students together for 3, 4, or 5 days, and we haven't determined how long Peace Camp is going to be, but they always, and you all in your professional worlds may have also had the experience of going off to a conference, right? And it's very invigorating and it's bonding and you get inspired. And so we want to see, right, how we can keep that inspiration going. So we will definitely give you an opportunity to provide some input and thoughts or resources. I love the idea of a playlist. And I'm going to guess that our playlist might be different than the high schoolers that go through Peace Camp, right? They may have access to a whole nother body of music that we don't even know about. So, but yeah, imagine that we'll be doing art and music and all sorts of good stuff. Okay, Joan, next slide. All right, so this is one of the opportunities that I thought would be fun for you all to participate in. I don't know how many of you are in retirement officially or approaching retirement. I've had the opportunity to go out to the Stanford D School and learn about design thinking and learn about life design. I had last winter, I was able to take 7 graduate students in the kinesiology department through this entire book and this entire process. And all 7 of them, even though it was a small pilot group, said it was fantastic. I wish I had it earlier. And so that was very exciting to me. And I think that what I would like to do is work with Joan and to get information out to you that describes the process. I mean, I'm imagining that we would meet up at Cape and build some community, because one of the aspects of design thinking is having people to bounce ideas off of or get a different perspective with. So it's important that we meet in person for those of you who feel it's safe enough to do so at this time. So yeah, and it's the design thinking process is a human-centered approach that really basically what we call it is designing your way forward to an unknown future. So it's extremely reflective. There's lots of activities to go through, making connections, thinking about and reframing. Instead of looking at what's my mission or passion or purpose, this kind of comes at it from a different perspective, which can be super helpful if you feel like, I don't know what my mission or purpose or value is, or that seems too much to me. Oh. So I'm excited to offer the opportunity. We'll get you some more information, but just know that it is if anybody wants to order the book and begin reading, you certainly are welcome to. The book will walk you through the whole process, but you just won't have the value of being together in community, walking through the experience together. So can I just get how many of you are retired right now that are on the screen? So we got a lot of hands. Okay, so yep. I would love to have you all come up and participate in some of this. And this actually may impact, right, your UU group. Like, what are do we have a shared value or something, that a shared idea that comes out of this process, where we could put some energy to, some direction. So that's great. I'm excited about that. Let's go on to the next thing. I think that was probably it in terms of what I had officially in my slides to present. So we could certainly open it up to Q&A.
So I was just going to mention, Susan, if you wanted to plan a meeting, and you could plan it to be at your location, because that would be great for people to see it. And then people could attend kind of you could give a more detailed overview of what the designing your life would be.
Great, perfect. That's a great idea, Joan. Thank you.
And we have a Thursday digest, and so we could put it in there to let people know, especially if they weren't participating today, they could hear about it. So we can talk more about that.
And it's probably not going to start till like mid to late October, right?
Okay, great.
The beginning of the school year is kind of busy for me, so.
Mhm.
So please, I'm happy to entertain questions. If you know anybody that's going to be in high school this year and they want to have a radically different experience in a positive way, I would love to talk to them about that. This high school program, as you guys think about what questions you may have. So the high school program is basically, we're handing the state standards over to the students and saying, you design a project that shows that you understand the items that you're to learn, and you can choose the method by which to display your learning. And there's, 4 core classes. There's science, math, English language arts, and then social studies. So even if they find one project that integrates all those disciplines, we're going to help them understand how to develop a learning proposal. We have a project management software program that we're going to be using. And in the classroom, we're just going to have learning coaches and facilitators, and the certified teachers at the district level will approve and then evaluate the learning proposal. And we're going to have an environment that's basically like you're coming to work, right? So we have to build all those skills about work, project management, feedback, teamwork, true collaboration. Students will have an opportunity to decide whether they want to do pass, fail, or work for a grade. We're only going to be meeting 3 days a week, because we also, one of the things that I see in the traditional system is that students don't really have the opportunity to build up those self-management techniques, managing your own time, managing your own energy, managing your health, right? Because in the traditional system, as you all experienced, the 6 periods of here's when you arrive, here's when you change class, here's when you eat, here's when you leave, right? All that stuff. So by giving more space, we're also creating an opportunity for students to begin building. We don't expect them to be perfect. Begin building those self-directed, self-motivation, organizing principles that will help lead to success post high school, whether they're opening their own business, going to work, or going off to college. And we're not starting till 10 a.m. because we also know that there is chronic sleep deprivation problems all across this country for our adolescents. And so we want them to get more sleep, to be healthier. In districts all across this country who have started later, they see a decrease in depression and anxiety. They see an increase in productivity test scores and attendance and overall happiness. So we're doing everything based on the research of how brains work, how adolescent bodies need to be cared for, and all that good stuff. So it's going to be a tremendous challenge, but extremely rewarding, I think. So now that I've talked a little bit more, what questions do you have? And you could probably exit, Joan, the slideshow if we want to have,
Sure.
have
Yeah.
our faces be bigger.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Joan, should I stop recording?
Yes, please.